and welcome to Health Talk. I'm your host, Jill Fraley Dotson. Of course, Health Talk is always a service of Pikeville Medical Center, a time we get together and discuss pertinent issues that are going on in and around our community and, of course, in the medical field as well. Today's guest, no stranger to Health Talk, is Dr. Cody Reynolds, Pikeville Medical Center Emergency Room Department Physician. Good day, Cody.
Hello.
Dr. Reynolds. I call you Cody, Dr. Reynolds.
I'd rather be called Cody.
I know you would.
That's the second time here, so I'm like family.
You are like family. You're an old pro at this,
Right.
so maybe I could just sit back and you just go ahead and tell us what we're
Let's do
talking
it.
about
Yeah,
today.
absolutely.
Today's issue, something that a lot of us are going to be taking part in over the next few weeks, and certainly the course of summer with the 4th of July approaching. Fireworks, a summertime favorite
Yeah.
for everyone, family fun, community togetherness, and certainly we like to show our patriotism, but we also want to make sure that we are safe. Before we get into all of the do's and don'ts
Sure.
of fireworks, tell us a little bit about your responsibilities at PMC and where you're from.
Awesome. I am a emergency department physician. We take care of acute injuries, everything from typical sprains and strains to always to heart attacks. So I'm originally from Phelps, Kentucky, and I live in Belfry now. So I'm a Pike County native, and just happy to be back.
You see so many different things as an emergency room physician, as you've told us before, but with the 4th of July approaching and many summer activities taking places from weddings to birthday parties, that sort of thing, we want to make sure that we are doing our best to be safe when it comes to playing with fire, so to
Yes.
speak. So first of all, what are some of the first aid items, normally even with or without fireworks, that we should have at home in our medicine chest?
Right. Typically there's commercial prepared first aid kits that come with a variety of things. If you're looking to make one on your own, some important things that you need to have, usually just like a Neosporin or some kind of ointment, itching sprays or like antihistamine sprays, some sort of NSAID or maybe a Tylenol or an ibuprofen, some different types of bandages. Typically for the 4th of July and things, we start thinking about burns. Aloe vera, the burn creams, there's commercially made burn creams and stuff, but really just those typical things, those common things that most people see.
How common this time of year, and especially approaching the 4th, are firework-related injuries?
Right, and that's the thing, is that we don't see a ton any other time. They're usually grouped around the 4th of July or some other sort of celebratory time where fireworks are involved. From time to time, you'll see one around New Year's and stuff, but most of the injuries and stuff that we're going to see are pretty much clustered around 3rd, 4th, 5th of July when people are using these fireworks and stuff for at-home and celebrations.
What are the injuries that you see as a physician at PMC involving or related to fireworks?
Number one, burns. So most of the time that we're seeing a firework injury and stuff, it's usually the smaller things. We're not seeing a whole lot of serious stuff in the last few years, I think, because of safety issues and things. People are taking a little bit more care in using them. Burns to the hands primarily are the most common things. Sometimes you'll see some head and neck injuries if you're using things like Roman candles or bottle rockets or things like that. From time to time you'll see some injuries to the eyes and stuff, but it's mostly minor burns, hands, arms.
I think a lot of people have different ideas on how they should treat a burn before they feel the need to maybe go to the emergency room. What should be the first thing you do if you get a burn?
Clean it. Yeah,
Okay.
so you want to make sure that you don't, and people say, there's always a question when they come in, they have a blister, do I pop the blister, do I not pop the blister? You leave it intact. If it bursts, it's not a big issue, but once you, clean the wounds, make sure you use soap and water. You don't have to use a specific soap or any kind of specific antiseptic, but get it good and clean.
Okay, let me ask you when it comes to cleaning, because I recently had someone tell me that soap and water is the best, or like a saline solution.
Sure. Yeah.
What about peroxide and all that sort of thing? What are your thoughts on using those type of cleaners?
Even like in the emergency department and stuff, multiple studies have shown like when we clean a wound, we just use tap water. There's been there's been no decrease in the amount of infection or the rates of infection and stuff that using any kind of commercial based or and even like some of the using things like that we normally think can damage the underlying skin and stuff. So soap and water is the best thing. You don't have to use peroxide. Some of those things can irritate the skin that's formed under there, the new skin that's under the burned area. So soap and water is just fine. Yeah, put some ointment on it after that. Neosporin is just as good as anything that we're going to give you in the emergency department.
Okay. So after we put the Neosporin on, then should we wrap it in some
You can.
kind of bandage
Yep.
or leave
Dry.
it open to
You
dry?
can leave it dry. Once you get it good and pat down and let it dry, then you can put the ointment on there. And really, it's not gonna make a humongous difference whether you keep it closed or you keep it open. It's a comfort thing. If it's hurting, you just leave it open to air dry. If you feel like the air is irritating, then you can put a dry dressing on it, just like a dry 4x4.
So if we think that it might be a more extensive injury,
Sure.
at what point do we need to come to the emergency room?
Right. Yeah. So if you're having extreme pain, if you're like, this is more than I can, handle at home or something, that's a worrisome thing because there may be some, significant burns that you're just not seeing this brewing under there. We start, talking about second-degree burns when you start seeing blistering involved. If you start getting swelling over the joints, like over the joints of your knuckles or your hands, like those are serious things. Burns to the face or anything like that, especially, burns on kids. We want to see those. I mean, even if it's just a reassurance thing, let us make the decision. We want to treat people.
If you're not sure, always go.
Come in. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we're there for.
Let's talk about where people should use fireworks. Obviously, you're an emergency room physician, but you also like to get out and have a good time too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there are certain places that we should and should not use fireworks.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think you want to use these places of course, outside of city limits because of the issues and the regulation and things. In a home, in a large field, away from obstructions. You don't want to be shooting into residential areas or shooting towards grandpa's barn. You want to get away from things that may catch on fire. Give yourself plenty of room that you're not going to impede on other people's properties, damage yourself or damage other people's things.
Just make sure that you're not on someone else's property.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we always want to make sure that our children are
Yes.
supervised. And
Yeah.
there is a limit to which you should give children the use of even a
absolutely.
sparkler.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times is like the go-to, and just growing up in Pike County, it's like the go-to kid firework is give them a sparkler.
Right.
And that's probably the worst possible thing you could give a kid. Some sparklers can get up to 2,000 degrees, which will can ignite your clothing, and you can see probably, honestly, the most significant burns that I've ever saw. Trained pediatrics up at Nationwide in Columbus, sparklers, like terrible, terrible burns from a sparkler falling into a kid's hand or burning down towards the end and getting the hand. Like,
Yeah.
don't give your kids sparklers. Like, it's the worst possible thing you could do.
I was telling you before we began our program today, someone asked me, I
Yeah.
have a 2.5-year-old daughter, I know
Sure.
you have young children as
Right.
well, and they said, are you going to give her a sparkler?
No.
And I thought, no,
Yeah,
I
absolutely
would
not.
barely hold a
No.
sparkler
Yeah,
myself.
those things can get really, really hot. So, I mean, treat a sparkler just like you treat any other kind of firework and stuff. So, yeah, not appropriate for kids at all.
Yeah, we've talked about the neck area, your face area. Hopefully you don't get burns around your eyes, but
Yeah.
are most firework injuries related to your extremities?
Yeah, the most common injuries is going to be to the hands and stuff. And then second, like I said, would be the neck and the torso. Just the way that you're holding it, or if it comes back on you, then the most thing is going to hit the chest or the neck or the head. But yeah, most commonly hands and arms.
Yeah. Let's talk about some safety precautions
Sure.
and things that if you are going to put on your own fabulous firework
Right.
display at home, as so
Absolutely.
many people do,
Yep.
And we always want to get the biggest and best, it seems.
Yes.
What are some precautions at home or in the area that we are going
Mm-hmm.
to do our fireworks? What should we have there?
So if you're going to put on your own fireworks and display at home and things, you just want to kind of make sure that you're not getting these, professional grade fireworks and things. Get it from a reputable dealer. Make sure that you're not getting yourself into things that you can't handle. As far as precautions and things that you should take at home, have a first aid kit handy. You want to prepare for the worst and just hope for the best. Water on hand, a water hose just in case something catches on fire. I don't think you have to go the route of a fire extinguisher, but just common sense things. Keep something on hand that you could extinguish a fire with. Just as far as that kind of stuff goes. And then the things that we said about earlier, just make sure that you got a nice, clear, big area and common sense.
Common sense. That's
Absolutely.
one of the things sometimes
I try
on
to preach the
holidays
most.
that goes
Yes.
out the window.
Yes.
Let's talk about lighting fireworks. A lot of people just think I can just stick a match to it or a cigarette lighter or
Yeah.
anything like that. Safety tips when we are lighting those
Yes.
fireworks.
So number one thing is that if you get a dud, if you get a firework that doesn't ignite or it goes halfway and then it goes out, it's not a good idea to try to pick that thing back up and set it on fire again. We see a lot of injuries like that. They don't think it's going to ignite and then they pick it up to relight it and the wick goes back in and then it blows up in their hands. That's a common thing. So don't try to pick up a firework that maybe didn't go off the way it's supposed to. don't use a sparkler to try to, I see a lot of people, well, I was using a sparkler and it burned down towards the end and I was trying to light it and I didn't pay attention. So just use the candle lighters. Those sometimes are the best. It gives you a little more room to work with. If you can, there's even like wick extenders and things that you can kind of like add to the ends of the smaller fireworks. But just trying to keep as much room between you and the firework as possible.
Don't you think as we get older, we look back on our childhoods and we think, oh my goodness, how silly we were.
How did we keep both hands?
How did we keep both hands?
Yeah,
How did we keep
absolutely.
from burning down our parents' homes? You know, there's so many things that we do. But as we get older and we have children, we start to look at things differently. And
Sure.
of course, as an emergency room physician, you look at things totally different
Right.
now.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I just think about some of the things like going back and growing up with my cousins and stuff, and just the things that we did without our parents knowing. Just like I don't know how we did.
10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Burn houses down.
Yeah, it happens.
Absolutely.
So as we come to a close today, as we talk about fireworks safety, let's talk about some ways that we can be responsible
Yes.
at our celebrations, or as we over the course of the summer
Sure.
use fireworks. What are some of those examples that we need to make sure that we keep in mind?
Yeah, so things that we've talked about earlier and just kind of things we are on. Just, really, we've always at the parties and things, we want to mix alcohol and we want to have a good time and that sort of stuff. Just, don't, moderation with everything. We want to keep kids as far away from the source of the fireworks as possible. You just want to observe all the local regulations, make sure that you're not, shooting off fireworks in an area that is not legal, non-obscured areas, not places full of brush that you may start an incidental fire, just those sorts of things.
Also, too, we've had a lot of water
Sure.
lately with our forecast and everything, and things should be fairly saturated.
Yes.
But if by any chance, before next week and the 4th of July comes,
Right.
there are burn bans put in place, make sure that you
absolutely.
abide by those
them.
bans.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
They're there for a reason, you know what I
They
mean?
are.
So, yeah, you just always make sure you pay attention to
So
that.
we're going to purchase fireworks from a reliable source,
Absolutely.
not some
Yeah.
random
Yeah.
roadside stand.
Absolutely.
Always use according to your product and safety label.
Yeah.
Read the labels.
They're there for a reason.
Observe law enforcement and law ordinances,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And this is a good thing, too. Although you're going to have adult supervision, make sure that you establish a designated fireworks shooter.
Yeah, I think so too, because you start having multiple people using the fireworks, or somebody's shooting over here and somebody's shooting over there. If one falls and this guy doesn't know,
Yeah.
or start getting into a big mess. One person does them. One person's the designated.
Never, ever mix a lot of alcohol
Never.
with
No.
fire.
Nope. Never works out good for us. I know it's coming up on the celebratory times, and we all want to have a good time and stuff, but we'll see you in the ER if you do.
Even boating injuries, too.
Absolutely.
I know you see a lot of those, and that's not what really our topic is today, but boating injuries always happen around this time of
Always.
year.
Yeah.
Do not mix the
Don't
alcohol.
do
It's
it.
just like driving a car.
Absolutely.
Wear safety glasses.
Please.
Absolutely. Have water ready.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
case.
Just in case something happens. You don't expect anything to catch on fire, but if it does, you'd rather be safe than sorry. Always be prepared.
I love this one. Soak spent fireworks in water before placing them in a trash
Yeah,
can.
absolutely. Because you're going to put something that's that's heated up to thousands of degrees, and you're going to put it into a plastic fire. It's probably going to catch
Just
on
not
fire.
smart.
No, just
And
don't
do not give children sparklers,
No.
firecrackers,
Don't
bottle
yeah,
rockets.
that's the thing we worry about the most. That's the most 3 common things that are going to injure kids: sparklers, firecrackers, bottle rockets. And they don't even do anything pretty. So just stay away.
Yeah.
Don't purchase those things. They're not kid friendly. So just stay away from those as best you can.
Be safe, smart, and have fun
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
within
Well,
reason. Or you'll see Dr. Cody Reynolds
yeah,
in the ER.
I'm seeing you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So everybody be safe.
Thank you so much for being with us
Yeah.
today on Health Talk. Always a pleasure having
Thank you
back.
so much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This has been Health Talk, a service of Pikeville Medical Center, proud member of the Mayo Clinic Care Network.